Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Brown, Chair of the Virginia Beach School Board, and I call this administrative, informal, and workshop session to order. Madam Clerk, would you please announce the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Present in the school board chamber are Chair Brown, Vice Chair Weems, Mr. Bowman-Steele, Mr. Callen, Mr. Cummings, Ms. Felton, Dr. Green, Ms. Melnick, and Ms. Rogers. And currently online is Mr. Culpepper. And Mr. Culpepper, for the record, can you say why you're zooming in and your location?
Good afternoon. I'm in Pennsylvania on personal business.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We are on school board administrative matters and reports. I have a couple things. We have the meetings with the superintendent for March and school visits with the superintendent. I think that I started them to the right last time, so I'm going to start them to the left this time. Also, since it's budget season, I just want to remind my colleagues that this is an excellent opportunity to make sure that you're meeting with the superintendent to discuss that budget one-to-one. And then Dr. Robertson, you had asked about a potential presentation related to the upcoming special elections. Do you want to elaborate on that briefly so that we can determine what the board would like to do?
Yes, we have two special elections coming up. One would be to do an election to handle the seat created by the loss of Barry Knight. And then the other special election, well, let me go back. So that first special election for Barry Knight will occur first, and that will be in, I believe, 13 sites. The larger special election is April 21st, and 50 of our schools, and that's on the referendum about redistricting. So Mr. Freeman has been keeping us in the loop on that, and so Mr. Freeman and I had talked about bringing this to the board, some recommendations, and then get the board to weigh in. Mr. Freeman, do you want to add anything to that?
I think that covers the high level, but I'm happy to go into any more detail that helps you understand why we need to be able to get it on to get feedback to the board, because it could affect the school day on those days.
Information on March 10th and then action the following meeting, or?
That's correct.
I'm sorry, the first special election is on the 17th. So we would need to have a decision for what to do on the 10th, no later than to be able to execute for the 17th.
All right, well,
Thank you, Ms.
we'll
Freeman.
manage that. We'll put it on information and then go from there. All right, Mr. Cummings?
Yeah, I wanted to report to the school board. I had, at the invite of Dr. Robertson, I attended one of the school support meetings at Woodstock Elementary School, and I just had a phenomenal experience there. Seeing the intervention, seeing the strategy, seeing what our leadership is doing to continue to support our students and to make sure that everyone is on track to succeed. And I just wanted to share with the board, I think it was a remarkable experience, seeing the structure of the meeting, seeing the large amount of data that our staff are looking at to make sure that every single child has the skills needed to thrive. So I wanted to echo Dr. Robertson's invite to folks here. If you have the opportunity, attend one of these school support meetings, because I will say that, I left that meeting just amazed at how much information people are looking at, the plans that they're utilizing to make sure kids are on track. And I don't know, it's just a great experience. So I'd encourage everyone, if you have time, prioritize that just to see, because I know we get questions about what's happening with these schools that, are apparently allegedly not doing well. And I will say that our schools, our staff, our administration are working extremely hard to make sure everyone's on track, to make sure that there's a plan in place. So great time. I had fun. I'll have to do it again sometime.
Thank you. Ms. Felton?
Thank you, Chair Brown. And I ditto all that you said, Mr. Cummings, that's absolutely right. Going to C-Tech Elementary last week was really phenomenal. Great visit. Class structure is really great. But let me go this way. I'm going to say, dear colleagues and community members, in recognition of Black History Month, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of our shared history. While this board may no longer issue formal resolutions, I believe it remains essential to highlight significant national observance Public announcements such as this serves as an efficient way to provide meaningful information to our community. The 2026 national theme for Black History Month is A Century of Black History Commemoration. To bring this theme home to Virginia Beach, I want to reflect on the progress made by the Virginia Beach Historic Preservation Commission. Since being nominated to this commission in 2018, I have been proud to support efforts to recognize the history of Black Americans in our city through the installation of historical markers. These markers ensure that our history remains visual in the places where residents live and travel daily. I encourage everyone to visit and learn from the following local historical road markers. The scrimmage at Kent's Landing, located on South Birdneck Road near Singleton Way, and the skirmish at James Plantation, located on Elson Green Avenue near Three Oaks Elementary School. As we approach the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, the Kemp's Landing markers serve as a timely reminder of the American Revolution local impact. This engagement occurred 250 years ago on November the 15th, 1775, and resulted in the first Patriot casualties in Virginia. Critically, this site also documented a pivotal moment in African American heritage. Prior to the skirmish, Lord Dunmore encouraged enslaved Virginians to join this Ethiopian regiment. Following the fight, he issued a proclamation offering freedom to enslaved person who fought for that fight. The Historic Preservation Commission website features a story map that documents all historical highway markers in Virginia Beach, including several others that reveal our city's diverse African American history. I am honored to have contributed to the Commission's work in making these important stories accessible to all. My hope is that we treat Black History Month not merely as a formality, but as an invitation to learn, reflect, and honor the people and stories that form the foundation of Virginia Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bowensteel?
Yes, I have a couple of things I'd like to report. On Friday, I had the opportunity to go out to the Entrepreneur Business Academy. They had the first annual Mayor's Volunteer Service Award, and it was like a really pleasure just to see those students. They're very sharp and working with them and talking to them, and that was a really great time. And then today at the convention center, we had the STEM trifecta, which about the only way I could sum it up is just amazing. It was just totally awesome, just seeing all the elementary schools competing with their projects that they have made, and the academies being out there supporting them, and also recruiting and the different businesses that were out there. So that was a really good time. If next year, definitely put it on your schedule to try and get out there and see that.
Thank you. Mr. Callen?
Yes, my contribution to this part of the meeting is also to report on an event that I participated in. I was invited by Chris Freeman, who is overseeing the Environmental Studies program at the Brock Center. He and his associate, Deanna McDowell, invited me to come out and just participate in the program, view what was taking place as the students were going through their activities. It happened to coincide with the arrival of a group from UVA that was down conducting their similar activities, and they were greatly impressed with the interaction that took place with the students from the Environmental Protection or Environmental Studies program. So if you have a chance, get out and take a peek at what's going on out there. It's very interesting and it's quite impressive.
Thank you. Mr. Bowensteel?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot that I actually had a chance to talk with Chris Freeman today, and he was very excited and proud that they got the Back Bay program and it's up and running, and they're going to be doing a ribbon cut here next month. He was very excited about that.
Chris is good. He's a great guy.
Okay, lots and lots of school board work going in, and so, we have a very committed school board to attending events at our schools and supporting, so I just want to, send my thanks to everybody on the board that's participated in our student events here. We are now on to the middle school schedule update, and we welcome Dr. James Smith, Senior Executive Director of Middle Schools.
Good evening. Do we have a clicker? Nope. There we go. Thank you. Good evening, Chairwoman Brown, Vice Chairwoman Weems, Dr. Robertson, members of the school board. This evening, I'd like to provide an update on the implementation of the middle school master schedule. During this presentation, I will revisit our why and our journey, review key changes to the schedule, share the impact of Thrive on instructional support and opportunities it has provided to students, discuss avenues for staff feedback, share feedback from principal workshop, and share positive impacts and our focus on continuous improvement. Before moving forward, it's important to revisit our why. Recall last year, we revisited the master schedule due to the new VDOE, School Performance Framework, the implementation of the Virginia Literacy Act, to maximize opportunities for our students, and to maximize our resources and better leverage our schedule. Throughout the development of the implementation of the master schedule, the following were kept front and center: maximizing support for our English language learners, students with disabilities, academic support, and accelerated learners. To provide students the opportunity to maximize access to elective courses, and to maximize access to higher level courses and opportunities to earn high school credit. I want to take a moment to recognize the tremendous work of our teachers and our school leadership teams by briefly revisiting our journey. In October of last year, a committee of principals and members from the Department of Teaching and Learning collaborated to design a master schedule focused on maximizing student opportunities and resources. In December of 2024, a draft master schedule was provided to teachers from each school, all the middle school principals, and each office within the Department of Teaching and Learning to elicit feedback. The teacher group consisted of 6 teachers from each school. Each school identified 1 special education teacher, 1 elective teacher, and 4 content teachers, 1 math, English, science, and social studies. Principals provided ongoing feedback throughout the first semester and overwhelmingly favored shifting to this new schedule. Members from the Department of Teaching and Learning participated in feedback sessions throughout the process. In January of 2025, the board received a presentation on January 14th during a workshop. And on January 28th, they received the presentation during the information portion of the school board meeting. On February 11th, the new schedule was approved by the school board, and throughout the month of February and March, we continue to focus on our new schedule during our middle school professional development sessions and providing each principal providing an overview to their staff. From April through August 2025, schools developed their master schedule, continued to collaborate across middle schools, and office hours were held for school-based teams throughout the summer. In all, approximately 32 meetings and sessions were held to elicit feedback and to come to the schedule that we have implemented now, which was implemented in August 2025. The schedule had 2 key changes that allowed us to leverage additional opportunities for our students and to maximize our resources. The first change provided greater uniformity in the master schedule across the division middle schools. All schools are operating on a 90-minute block and a bell class of approximately 50 minutes. The implementation of the uniform schedule has provided greater consistency across the division and has allowed us to more effectively maximize scheduling opportunities. Scheduling has provided better alignment for our elective classes and has allowed us to leverage our distance learning courses for world language. It has established consistent times during the day for our Department of Teaching and Learning to work with middle school PLCs. As well, this schedule has offered consistency and has made it easier for our students who transfer within the school division. The second key change was the addition of Thrive Time. Thrive Time has given more students access to a full elective schedule, providing them the opportunity to explore their interests and talents while also receiving instructional support to meet their needs. This time has also given the opportunity to provide SOL and academic support for students who need additional instructional assistance, provide support for students with disabilities and our English language learners, and provide flexibility for our school counselors to engage students in lessons in academic and career planning. It has also provided teachers the opportunity for small group pull-out and support math, and for our leveraging of our math and literacy coaches to support our students and gifted resource teachers to assist with students. Other examples include working with students who require literacy support under the Virginia Literacy Act. Now, I want to pause here because I want to give a shout out to our reading specialists, to our teachers in our schools. Right now, we have 2,887 individual student reading plans. So to quantify that, you spread that across the middle schools, that is a lot of work that our reading specialists and our teachers have done, and this time has allowed us to be able to execute that act from the VDOE. It's also given us time to work with gifted students for independent projects and provide support for students engaged in rigorous and advanced coursework. I want to be clear. Thrive is one component of the master schedule. This component is where we saw an opportunity when we were reviewing the master schedule. I also want to point out under the old schedule, there was a 30-minute block of time where students did nothing. That block of time was there to allow for supervision and to split cafeteria so that we could meet the cafeteria capacity. And when I say nothing, the students would go to the classroom and they would work on whatever work they had. We saw this as an opportunity to expand that time to 50 minutes and to maximize that time to better meet the needs of our students. So I wanted to add that piece. Over the next slides, we'll take a look at how impactful this schedule has been. So you're not going to see a chart just yet because I want to give it some context first. As shared last year, the importance of elective programs cannot be overstated. Elective classes allow students to explore interests beyond the core curriculum and discover their passion. As a former principal, I've witnessed firsthand how discouraging it is to pull a student out of an elective class because they have to go to a remedial class to see additional support and therefore only receive one elective course. Looking at this chart, I'm proud to share that schools have maximized access. So this chart on this slide illustrates how schools have maximized access to first quarter elective classes by providing instructional support during Thrive Time. The vertical axis represents student counts. The horizontal axis represents the type of instructional supports provided. Looking at the blue bar labeled total, 3,875 students received much needed instructional support during Thrive Time while still accessing 2 elective courses. In the past, these students would have to have forgone a class and be removed from an elective course. I want to break it down by the type of support that was provided. 2,168 students received SOL lab support in math and or English during first quarter. This support is provided to students who did not meet with success during the spring reading or writing SOL assessment. 621 students received academic concepts support. This support is provided to students with disabilities and is listed as a service on their IEP. So I want to pause again because I want to give this great context. And this was part of what we talked about when we provided this schedule and presented it the first time. We have had special needs students who have gone 6th, 7th, and 8th grade with only PE and had never had the opportunity, because of that academic concept, to explore any other elective. This has provided them the opportunity to explore the electives, which we are very proud of. 815 students received Read 180 support. This support is provided to students who read below grade level, and 271 students received SIP support. SIP's Systematic Instruction in Phonological Awareness, Phonics, and Sight Words is a structured research-based literacy program designed to support students who need targeted instruction in foundational reading skills. How did I do, Detail? Yay. I want to move to the next chart. This chart reflects second quarter data. Please note that SOL lab data is not presented on this chart because it is only offered during the first quarter. Instead, academic support, represented by the purple bar, has been added. The purpose for academic support is to provide targeted assistance for students who earned a failing grade on their report card. Academic support is offered during quarter 2, 3, and 4. Just so you're aware, the purpose behind that is not to wait for summer. It's to give the student support throughout. So academic support was first used in 2011. We are now able to offer that during the Thrive time and not remove a student from electives. As you can see, a total of 3,456 students received instructional support and therefore were provided a second elective. I'll pause so you can look at the remaining numbers and the type of instructional supports provided. This chart provides data for quarter 3. Currently, 4,669 students receive instructional support during Thrive Time. Again, I'll pause for a second for you to see the other types of supports provided for students. As you can see, this schedule has benefited our students who need instructional support while giving them more access to elective courses. In the past, for example, a student could have been removed from band to participate in academic support. In many cases, this is no longer the case. This schedule has also given elective teachers the opportunity to strengthen and grow their program. One example is reflected on this slide. 2 years ago, there was significant discussion about low enrollment in our fine arts programs and its impact on staffing. One contributing factor was shared last January was that we needed to pull students from electives to provide additional instructional support. As a result of recent schedule changes, fine arts enrollment has increased by 752 students across our middle schools. This schedule has not only allowed students to explore and develop their talents, but has also created opportunities for our teachers to expand, strengthen, and grow their elective programs. With any change, assessing progress and examining what is working well and where improvements can be made is an ongoing process aligned with our commitment to continuous improvement. Prior to the start of the school year, principals received a memo outlining expectations to use their instructional leadership team and their principal advisory committees as a vehicle for gathering staff feedback and exploring opportunities with the following focus: collect, review, and discuss feedback throughout the school year, share timely response and updates with staff, and to review common themes across schools to inform potential adjustments for year 2. In November, principals participated in a workshop to examine and reflect on the implementation of the schedule. Prior to the session, principals completed a SWOT analysis. This is a tool used to identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and potential threats. Their analysis are centered on 2 key objectives. First, evaluating and reflecting on the effectiveness and challenges of their newly implemented master schedule. And second, identifying next steps to strengthen the schedule and expand opportunities for both students and teachers. In many cases, I want to pause for a second and let you know, in many cases, what the principals did was receive feedback on what were some of the positives and what were some of the things that we can grow upon. During the workshop, principals identified several emerging themes that had a positive impact. I think these themes will look familiar as they hit on what our 3 guiding questions were. Maximize access to elective courses for students has been accomplished. Thrive in intervention times have enhanced academic support and strengthened teacher-student relationships. Common schedules and structures across middle schools have improved alignment, has allowed opportunity to maximize distance learning, and again, creating a common planning time for PLCs to have division support. As well, and this was one of the unintended outcomes that we happened upon, it made it much easier for a student who transfers within the division. I think that was one of the things that came from our reflection. Lastly, the increased planning time has been beneficial to our teachers. However, during the workshop, principals also identified the following emerging themes to focus on as we strive for continuous improvement. Continue to evaluate and share structures on how Thrive is being utilized across middle schools. While I'm very proud of our teachers and their hard work, I do recognize that we need to continue to share information and what we're doing at each school. Continued collaboration opportunities for teachers who teach across grade level, and to consider increasing the grade 6 elective time from 48 minutes to 50 minutes. And I think that came from the kids changing out, getting out into PE and not having enough time. Let me go back one. Throughout the second semester, a team of principals will look at these themes and see if any adjustments can be made. In addition, each school will continue to leverage their instructional leadership team and their principal advisory committee as a vehicle to seek feedback and explore possible solutions to any challenges they may have. In closing, I return to our why, supporting student learning. I'm very proud of our teachers and our administrative leadership teams for their strong commitment to our students and for recognizing the benefits that this schedule has provided. As with any schedule, challenges remain, but our focus on continuous improvement will ensure we meet students' needs and stay true to our why. I want to say, before I take questions, I think it's important, very important to recognize, and I know Dr. Robertson said it last year, with any new schedule, you're going to have challenges. We are just beyond first semester. And looking at the data and hearing and seeing and going into these Thrive classrooms, I'm in awe of what they've created. And it just shows you when you give great leaders and great teachers the opportunity to make decisions for our students, this is the outcome. So at this time, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Just a few. Mr. Cummings?
Well, I had to hit that button fast because can we go back to slide 10 real quick? I'm gonna put that slide right back on that board on the TV so the public can consume this phenomenal data. This just warms my heart so much, as I know we had the discussion around Thrive and increasing enrollments in electives. And, you know, as a musician, as someone who is a strong advocate for creative arts and music classes and all those things, seeing an enrollment increase of 752 students is a phenomenal. And I want to speak that out to the public that, you know, we're seeing nationwide decreases in some of these types of courses. And for Virginia Beach City Public Schools to see tremendous growth based on just a thing like a schedule adjustment, I think it's remarkable that more kids are having at their fingertips singing, stringed instruments, drums, percussion. And so I feel very, very good about, you know, achieving this goal and unlocking our why. I'm just kind of curious. We increased by 752 enrollments. What does our kind of staffing plan look like with that amount of increase? How have we been agile in responding to that huge increase?
So staffing will still be based on student enrollment and based on student interest. And so I only see these numbers increasing, if not staying the same. And we have other ways to ensure that we're able to offer the sections that need to be offered based on the number of students who want to take part in our liberal or our fine arts. So we'll know after staffing, but right now I feel pretty good about continuing to offer.
And we could just leave that slide up for the rest of the evening.
Ms. Melnick?
Ditto. But I'm just going to take your words before I ask my question and say you're in awe of the teachers that are doing the work during Thrive Time, and that's why that's 752, right? Because while administration recognized there was a problem, the teachers are the ones that have stepped up, and so kudos to them. This is a lot of work, appreciated and necessary though. But I have a question on slide 8. Slide 8 shows academic support. So I wrote, is failing grade on report card. Are those academic, that purple bar, are students that received a failing grade on a report card?
Yes,
Okay,
for math, English, science, or social studies,
okay, for one of the 4.
for one of the 4.
So the number increased a lot for third quarter. So is that typical as,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah, usually first quarter is a lot of spiraling,
yeah,
and a lot of testing is going on in first quarter, and so, you know, there's an adjustment period. Second quarter, it gets a little more intense, and so you see
Okay.
more. But also keep in mind that there are some students who may have had a failing grade, but are in Read 180 or in one of the other intervention markers.
okay. All right, just wanted to make sure I understood that, that bar. And then my last question is, what exactly does continue to evaluate and share structures on how Thrive Time is being utilized across middle schools mean?
So a lot of the schools, so we created the schedule as a group. And all of the academic supports that are being provided during Thrive are straight across all middle schools.
Okay,
Some schools are being creative on how they're using that time. For example, we have a school that is doing a writing club in the newspaper. We have some schools, they have a structure each day where they have a certain amount of time where they're working on their planners or updating their table of contents. They're working on those fine Avid skills.
okay,
One of the things I did hear from a few students when I talked to them was they wish they had a period of time, particularly those students who are in after-school activities, where they could focus on their work.
Okay.
So those are things that when I said we're going to reevaluate some of the things that are happening, it's more sharing across schools. Hey, this is everything we're doing.
Okay. I'm
Eh,
glad I asked that question.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Green?
Thank you for your presentation, Dr. Smith. I just have two things. The first, I wanted to make my colleagues aware that I had requested of staff via Dr. Robertson and Ms. Woodhouse to see the data for slides 7, 8, 9, and 10 disaggregated by school so we can drill down and see where that impact and how it looks in each of our middle schools. So thank you. I had PD flashback when you said SWAT with the principal workshop. But my second item, a question, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer it now. You may be able to answer it better at the end of the third quarter. Given the current outcomes, do you anticipate middle school, summer school numbers going down, seeing that a lot of things that typically we have waited, that are reactive as a result of a tough school year happening now, in Thrive being proactive, that possibly that may look a little bit, numbers would be lower?
So it's hard to project that. What I will say, based on the work that the teachers are doing, and even in those Thrive classes, like you have students who are taking advanced EOC courses that they struggle with, they're getting help in there. And we have some students that may not be in any of these tiered supports, maybe a student who struggles with testing, they're still getting a level of support during this block of time. So I think so, but I can't wager any money on it.
Right, and that
I
would
don't
be a
have money
good.
to wager, but Crystal has money, but I don't.
Say, thank you.
Ms.
And-
Rogers? Oh,
Yeah, and just wanted to bring something up to Miss Woodhouse. We are all offering enrichment as well. Thank you, Miss Woodhouse.
Ms. Rogers?
Thanks so much. First of all, I want to say that I do volunteer with bands at the middle school level in my limited free time, as my children are band members. And we did see a massive increase in sixth graders coming into the band and marching band from last year's seventh grade class. It is actually quite small compared to our sixth and eighth grade classes. So, I mean, saying that I did see it in real time is wonderful that this was part of that. I also want to state that I am really glad that we are not pulling students from these electives, that we are able to give students the supports that they need. And I think that having that continuity across the division, so if a student does move from school to school, it doesn't turn into an entirely new experience going from one middle school to another, because families do move. But I do want to give some feedback from an educator that I used to speak to on a regular basis. When this rolled out, especially for some of our students who don't need that support, it was difficult for some of our educators to try and kind of figure out what they were doing. And one of the educators, and normally I would not call people by name, but this particular educator, who was a fantastic educator at Brandon Middle, she was a math teacher. She would contact me about this frequently, and finally said, I decided that I was going to just ask the kids every week, what do you want to study this week? And let them direct me. And sometimes I didn't know what I was doing and would say, well, I don't know how to do that, but let's figure it out together. And to me, that is the epitome of education, allowing the students to have a say as a collective class what they want to study and have their teacher help them study whatever it is that they want to study for the week. And maybe, and this teacher's name was Marlene Para. She was amazing. Unfortunately, we lost her in November, not because she left, but because she passed away. And it was a huge loss to Brandon. But in her honor, it would be amazing for us to be able to build some sort of educational space where teachers can put lessons like that they've created for each other to use during Thrive Time. So if they've learned origami with their students and created a middle school lesson on origami, we can put it in a space where another teacher can grab that and make it easier for our staff to then use these enrichment times for our students and have a huge collection of different lessons for our middle schoolers so that they can learn different things and we're not recreating the wheel every time we want to learn something new. So that's just feedback from me as an educator as well as from my friend Marlena, and it would be great that we could do that kind of in her honor.
Mr. Callen?
Thank you for your presentation. There's a lot of material here that I have to admit I can't fully appreciate because of the scope and the magnitude of it. But I do want you to know I appreciate the enthusiasm that you bring to your reporting.
Thank you.
There was a previous report that you gave us in the past, and when it was time to vote, I had to vote yes because I was just so excited about the enthusiasm that you were projecting. So if you ever seek another career, sales would be a good opportunity for you.
All right, I'll keep that in mind.
On page 14, you make a statement that was intriguing. First of all, you're asking for a consideration of increasing the grade 6 elective time from 48 to 50 minutes. Question number one is, who should consider that? Is that something that you want the school board to be considering as a future decision, or is that something internally within your administration?
Yeah, no, not for that, because it's, while we have 90 minutes of block, sometimes it's 91 minutes because there's a 5-minute buffer for transition. So those minor tweaks or adjustments that will be made that we would do, we wouldn't need school board approval for. We wouldn't uproot any of the components of the schedule or do away with Thrive or a block or anything like that. But we're looking at minor tweaks. We have some schools, depending on the size, where transition time is different because they're not all the same footprint. So, no, I don't envision that.
Secondarily, then, what was intriguing to me was, does making a shift from 48 to 50 minutes have that much of an impact? It seemed so insignificant that it was a curiosity item as a result of the minor amount of time involved.
Yeah, I guess for PE teachers, the others are 50. And so having, and it may be something where we're like, because when you're transitioning from one elective to another grade level, they're crossing. So you have to let one go before the other comes. So we may not be able to do that. That's being flexible and looking at how we're scheduling our transition times. And that's under any normal circumstance. We always look at that even without the new schedule. Is it going to break the schedule? No, not at all. Does it allow an extra 2 minutes for a student to dress out? It's just one of the things that the principal's brought up.
Well, let me again encourage you, keep your enthusiasm high. It's very effective.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Weems?
Yes, thank you. I just want to make a comment first. Of course, we know how important electives are, and many of us have children here. I had 5 who went to the school through the school system, and now grandchildren in the school system. And some kids love school, but some kids aren't big fans of school. So what keeps them engaged are these electives, that they really have something to look forward to go to school, to excel at something, especially if they struggle in, different areas. So we know how important this is. I especially like the fact that you noted our special education students now get to take electives because there's so much data that shows these electives, music, art, are actually so helpful for the creativity, the part of their brain, and for special education students who may struggle in other areas, that this is exactly what they need, music, art, and it will really help them in the other academic subjects. So I really like that. So with academic improvements, we know that this is so helpful for the reasons I have noted and you have noted, but are we gonna, I'm assuming, get an update maybe next, in the fall, about the academic improvements? Specific data about, about, like Ms. Melnick said, these purple bars indicate that more students had failing grades third quarter. When can we expect an academic update that shows these Thrive classes also helped this percentage academically?
Yeah, so always willing to give an update. The hard part is attributing any of the successes to one element. In other words, if we see great success, we can't say it was this schedule alone. There are elements like teacher professional development, but absolutely any increase in scores, yeah, we could
I
definitely
would
bring
definitely like to
something
see
back.
that update, because I would think that definitely we would see an improvement if they are getting targeted resources and targeted help in the areas that they are
What's that?
struggling in academically. I also kind of had a question along with one of my colleagues is what do you do with the students who aren't on these bars, who just need enrichment, and how does that, because that's a lot for a teacher. I mean, every Monday I eat lunch with 25 fifth grade girls, and I do a whole curriculum on myself. And that, I mean, I love it, but it adds a lot because it's like a separate little class that, nobody really knows about except for these 25 girls that I mentor and I eat with every Monday. But I'm having to do the whole lesson plan and figure out what can we talk about today, what can we do, all that stuff. So I think that's, I don't know, that just seems a lot for the teacher to do with the kids that don't fall in this category, and what are they doing, and how are we helping the teacher to make sure that she or he
Right.
has.
And so that's part of the recommendation, to bring everybody together to share the resources. So I'll say this. The students who aren't receiving this level of support, schools have a structure in place. And it might look like the first 15, 20 minutes are going through your AVID protocols, right? Like updating your table of contents, organizing your binder, summarizing your notes. So that was that piece of, we weren't doing that with a 30-minute time frame because we didn't have the time to do that. We're maximizing that time. The other part, and this is the feedback I've gotten from talking to students and a few teachers, are they want students to have a period of time where they're able to do their work. And we don't want it to be a study hall, per se, but each school has a protocol what they should be doing during the bell. And that's the process of when we come back together, sharing across the schools and saying, how can we make this better and provide a better structure?
Okay.
Now, I will say that a teacher teaches 5 bells. And that means they have 5 classes to plan for. So this is part of their planning as a PLC. Some of our teachers are teaching 5 bells, which are 5 contents, and they don't teach Thrive. So we have, keep in mind, we have teachers teaching cross grade level. So if I'm one of those teachers that's teaching cross grade level, I'm planning for maybe 6, I'm just going to use a subject out there. I may have 4 bells of Math 7 in advanced math and 1 bell of Math 8. So they're planning for 5 classes, and that's part of, everyone having 5 bells.
Okay.
And I do think the idea of the resources and more of what we can do,
Yeah.
and that's where that information sharing comes from. And again, after one semester, I'm blown away with the work that the schools have done. But we know there's always work to be done. Mhm. Yep.
Ms. Dwyer?
So
yeah, your sales capabilities are catching, and I'm impressed. Some of the things that I wanted to address were already addressed, but I just want to say that for a program that has just been rolled out, I'm not the least bit intimidated by the numbers on slides 7, 8, and 9, because I see that as a positive. You're capturing these students that we didn't capture before. Somehow the teachers and the principals and everybody unified here has, oh, that's okay. That's okay. Somehow you guys have connected in such a way where you've motivated these students. And like I said, those numbers don't necessarily intimidate me. I'm actually encouraged because students are getting the help they need on every level. So thank you. And I hope it continues.
Ms. Felton?
Thank you, Chair Brown. Dr. Smith, thank you so much for this detailed presentation. And I'd just like to say, maybe a week ago, I was in a forum with a student-led forum, and along with their parents, but the students led it, and they spoke on the fine arts and being able to get in and be more available to them. So I'm glad to see that this is happening for them. I will go back and express this at this forum again. They're going to have another one. Invite me. But I'd like to go back to slide 7 concerning SOL labs. First, let me say I appreciate the extra mile and the effort that you all are going to even have labs. When you say SOL labs, so that means that students are coming in, we're helping them with those labs, getting them up to par with their SOLs. But could you elaborate on, if you can, what that look like, what's the criteria for the students, and how far did they go? After sitting in a meeting with Dr. Colucci, explaining how the SOLs are done and how the parents are supposed to be engaged and given information about it. But the way that she told me we're given information, I said, well, we're going to have to do better to meet the parents where they are, because ultimately that doesn't have accessibility to a computer to sit down and see where my child has felt at these SOLs. So could you expand on the SOL lab? And I like that the word is lab, meaning they're going to get help.
Well, absolutely, but I want to preference by saying we're not going to call it SOL lab anymore. And the reason being is because it gives the impression that all you're doing is coming into a class and you're looking at the SOLs that you failed and you're just focused on that. We're not studying for an SAT. The reason is that we've identified in the spring, based on your test results, that you're going to need support the first quarter of the next grading, of the next school year. And so that support looks a lot like the academic support in quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. So we're looking at student data, and a lot of this is done in our professional development community, the teachers, professional learning communities. And a lot of it is looking at individual student data, reteaching what was taught in the classroom to slow it down for students, to provide more practice for students, to engage students in collaborative working. So we've decided we're going to call it academic support, because we don't want people to have that. And and being on the board before, and I know Ms. Woodhouse went through this as well, throughout the summer when we had SOL lab and a student was pulled from an elective, you received emails, we received emails, principals received emails, no one was happy about it. Even the principals, even myself, I hated to do it, but it was what we had to do to get that student the support. So it's reteaching the skills, slowing it down for the student, and helping them understand. Now, I do want to say we have 14,000 students in middle school. So there's a lot of great teaching going on, and when you look at these numbers, keep in mind that the number of students we have in middle school. So I don't know if I fully answered it.
Did, and I have other questions, but I'm going to email you.
Okay.
I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Ms. Brown, do you mind if I clarify one thing that I heard in this conversation with the schedule that I just want to make sure is clear?
Yes,
very
very
briefly.
quickly. Thank
Because
you.
I heard individuals say that we're glad to see they're getting this support final that they did not receive before. Academic support, SOL lab, all of those on the graph previously existed and were done on a daily basis. The difference now is they don't lose an elective, but I heard several say we're glad to see they're getting that support now. They've always received it. So I just wanted to provide that clarity because I didn't want any confusion on that. Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your presentation, and because we have a meaty presentation right after you, I'm going to get right to it here. We have the Building Utilization Committee report to the school board, and we welcome Ronald Berkebile, demographer, GIS manager.
Yes, ma'am.
And
And
Jack
I'll bring
Freeman.
him up. When you're complete, I just want to provide some context.
Sure.
You ready for us? All right, so big picture, this is an annual process. So by policy, staff is required to report to you no later than the last regular meeting in March what the process was related to the Building Utilization Committee meeting throughout the course of the year. So this is the conclusion of this year's process that we'll brief you on that is going to set our work up for next year. So with that, I'll bring Mr. Ron Berkebile up to walk you through it.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, school board members, and the superintendent, Dr. Robertson. I will say, just to start out, that I'm an economist, and economists are not issued a warm fuzzy personality like Dr. Smith. So this is going to be pretty straightforward tonight. So thanks for setting it up. On October 24th, the Building Utilization Committee convened its first school year 25-26 meeting. At this meeting, the BUC requested demographics and planning to analyze school closure potential. We agreed to conduct the research. On December 19th, a second BUC meeting was convened to review annual membership, projections, capacity, and closure progress. This information will be reviewed in this presentation. These are the BUC members. Mrs. Melnick was elected chairperson. Throughout this presentation, you'll find binder page numbers on the bottom left corner of each slide. If you desire to view the information in the binder, these will help you navigate. The BUC process is governed by Policy 514. To date, all policy requirements have been achieved. With the housekeeping information complete now, I'll begin reviewing the data. The highest school density remains in the 4 traditional areas. On the map, the dense areas are identified by the red arrows, dark blue color, and elementary schools. They are Tri-Campus, Green Run Elementary School, Glenwood Elementary School, and Windsor Oaks Elementary School. The associated middle schools and high schools are listed on the slide's left side. This year, one area increased in density. It is identified by a red oval and is in the Rosemont Forest Zone near Glenwood. Division-wide membership declined 1.3%. Elementary and high schools declined 1.6% and 1.9% respectively. Middle schools experienced a small increase of 0.3%. This table segregates the total membership into K through 12 and programmatic enumerations. Following the boxes from left to right, in school year 25-26, K through 12 declined 1.4%. The declines occurred in elementary and high schools. Elementary schools declined 1.8% and high schools 2.0%. Middle schools experienced a small increase of 0.4%. ECSC and pre-K continues to grow. These programs increased 2.8%. Conversely, CSEP decreased 3.9%. The largest CSEP decline was at the middle school level. From a long-term perspective, the declines follow the continuous trend of smaller annual aggregate membership enumerations. While the declining trend continues, the pace of the decline has slowed. The 5-year forecast, on average, continues this trend. Average expected declines are forecast to be 0.9% per annum. This information is contained in the blue arrow at the bottom right of the slide. Shifting from the long-term to the short-term perspective, in school year 26-27, membership is forecast to slightly increase. The small gain can best be described as flat. This can be viewed in the red boxes. In the forecast, if the forecast margin of error, however, is 0.02%, the actual membership would indicate a decline. So this is very close to a decline. In school year 27-28, the forecast indicates a continuation of membership declines. For this 2-year period, K through 12 membership is forecast to decline an average of 0.6%. This can be viewed in the blue arrow. Taking a look at capacity measurements, this elementary school map indicates 4 schools exceeded the capacity range of -10% to +10%. 3 schools are under capacity, are colored in yellow, and exceed the -10% lower bound. 1 school is over capacity, is colored red, and exceeds the +10% upper bound. On the map, white zones are within the capacity range. Overall, elementary schools are within the capacity range at -1.6%. In addition, in school year 2025-26, point of view rezoning plan was implemented. Located in the map's green box, the rezoning achieved its goals. To recap about point of view, 2 school years ago, Demographics began research for rezoning Point of View Elementary School. The Point of View rezoning accomplished 4 goals. It rezoned 2 large multifamily complexes out of the zone. The school's capacity was halved to 3.1%. The school now accommodates pre-kindergarten and early childhood special education children. And Arrowhead Elementary School is positioned to accommodate the large Artistry on Greenwich development and can assist with potential rezoning needs. We continue to monitor schools and use continuous improvement strategies to refine the rezoning process. Woodstock Elementary is an example. Woodstock Elementary School is currently over capacity at 45.4%. Demographics and Planning has monitored the school for 2 years, added 5 portables, and conducted a number of walkthroughs with Dossel and the principal. The BUC agreed to monitor the school the remainder of this school year, with potential to mitigate through rezoning in school year 27-28. Examining middle school capacity, 2 schools are slightly over capacity. They are Salem and Princess Anne. Walkthroughs with Dossel and the principals have been conducted. The principals indicate academic standards are not being compromised by the overcapacity. Overall, the middle schools are in capacity range at -0.2%. For high schools, there is 1 school under capacity. Overall, high schools are in range at -6.7%. Division-wide, capacity is in range at -3.7%. For informational purposes, alternative schools are under capacity at 20.8%. Again, with the exception of school year 26-27, declining membership is forecast for the following 4 years. This is illustrated in the blue box at the bottom right of the slide. As discussed last year, the cause is a smaller matriculation of kindergarten students compared to graduating 12th grade students. This is illustrated in the green boxes. Recognizing the long-term historical declines and projection decreases, the BUC requested potential closure research. To identify a site, schools were reviewed and analyzed to determine candidates. A quantitative scorecard was used to identify priority sites. On the left side of the slide are the quantitative categories that were used. They range from membership to previous analytical work, all aligned with Policy 514 rezoning guidelines. The school age and modernization map on the right is from the adopted CIP book. It indicates elementary schools, school ages. White zones are older facilities, and the circles and ovals identify empirical scorecard candidates. Based upon the scorecard results, the red circle became the primary research area. The orange circle is the secondary, and the black ovals the tertiary areas. The BUC agreed for demographics to conduct further research within the red area, specifically Holland Elementary School. This is the scorecard. Granted, it is a little complicated, but I'm going to try to get through this, help you to understand it. At the top of the table are the scoring categories illustrated on the previous slide. Using facility age as an example of functionality, the middle red box contains the year built column, the age column, and the score column. The far left red box indicates the potential closure candidates. The first school identified is Holland Elementary School. It was built in 1968 and is 58 years old. Based upon its age, the oldest facility is Holland Elementary School and became the first consideration for this category. Kings Grant is the second oldest, etc. After the scorecard's implementation, a facility age redundancy was identified and noticed, and the scorecard was adjusted. So this may not match what's in your binder. We had to adjust that, but it did not change, have a negative effect upon the overall rankings. To determine the primary location to be researched, the colored category columns were summed across. To derive the grand total is illustrated in the red box on the right of the slide. Attributable to this ranking process, the lowest score identified the primary research school. In this call again, Holland Elementary School was recommended and the BUC agreed. Here's where Holland Elementary School is located. The school's polygon is outlined in yellow. While the scorecard did not consider qualitative information or potential, the location is on a main arterial road and offers consideration. As directed by the BUC and school board, our work continues to meet school board needs. The next steps include reconvening the BUC in September 2026 to share closure and rezoning potential. For information, the soonest that closure or rezoning can take place is school year 27-28. At this point, I'd be happy to entertain any questions. If none, if desired, BUC committee members or school board members are free to share their comments with us.
So before I open the floor, I just want to offer the floor to the chair of the committee, Ms. Melnick. I don't know if you have anything that you want to add.
I don't really have anything to add. This is pretty cut and dry, except I will say, Dr. Smith did not use words like empirical or tertiary. So kudos to you. And I probably didn't even say it
That's
right, but
okay.
I wrote it down. So you may have won.
That's okay. I'll teach him those.
Okay, thank you. But I think the main takeaway, just to repeat what you said, is that we're watching Holland Elementary School. And for anyone not 100% familiar, I think everybody is on the board, it is right across the street from Green Run Elementary. So as you're traveling north on Holland Road, it's on your right-hand side, but where that school is, there's a light to turn left into the circle of Green Run. So they're very close. Stone's throw.
Ms. Rogers?
Thanks. I have a few questions. So Holland is our target, but on the map that we were looking at on, oops, now I have to look at the slide number. Slide number, it says on page 95. I have no idea which slide that is. The one that shows all the elementary schools on the map. There's a green like rectangle near near Thalia, and what does that represent?
That's not showing up on mine. Can I get you to Miss Toniato to turn to slide 23 so I can see that?
This.
Slide 9.
Yes.
What does that
Okay.
represent?
That's point of view. That was in conjunction with the point of view discussion
Okay.
for the rezoning.
Okay,
Sorry.
because I was confused as to my, we were being drawn to that. So then my next question about Holland, how many students are in that school right now? Do we know?
Approximately about 350.
And so we can't just put 350 students into another school because that would put it over capacity.
Right.
So is then the plan, just out of curiosity, to spread those students out around Brookwood, Windsor Oaks, Green Run, even possibly Christopher Farms and Bird Neck, like that? Is that what the plan is?
Yes, that's a very good question. That is exactly what's going to happen. We're developing 4 scenarios, one north, one south, one east, one west, and it would spread them out amongst the various schools that are on the periphery of that. And there's also
Yeah.
probably going to be some cascading effects with you fill up one zone, you have to push it to another zone.
Right, and so that's, I
Yes.
guess that's my question, is like, is this going to create such a cascade that we may be possibly rezoning a lot more than we intend? That's kind of my question, or do we not, like, know at this point?
Yeah, so it's possible, but with the 4 scenarios that we're going to introduce to you, one of the things that you all will be looking at is the number of students that will be moved, that there'll be movements associated with. And so, that'll probably be a primary reason for choosing a scenario in the future. And scenarios are just to allow the
Right.
BUC to have some choices to make during the process.
Yeah, and then you did say we were also discussing rezoning at Woodstock because it's over capacity, or no?
Before moving on, just to clearly, so number one, any contingency that Mr. Berkebile talked about doing would be at the direction of the board.
Right.
So number one, it would be if the board did not object to what was being described as what came from the BUC, then we would move forward. Your concern was if we shift those students, will we put ourselves into another scenario where we need to rezone? Well, as you've seen, everything that we do, we try and we have very good numbers that we have seen over time. So the objective would be make one change, make a good recommendation that's well within the capacity of the schools and projected capacity, which would go on, so that there was no need to rezone. So that will be, if directed by the board, that would be the types of plans that we would present. He mentioned that we would present multiple options.
Okay. And were we talking about Woodstock as well, or no?
I wanted to cover that one before you had a question about Woodstock. Happy to answer your question about Woodstock.
That one is over capacity. Were we talking about rezoning that as well? Possibly.
So that is one of the tasks that the BUC has recommended that we take a look at. And we are looking at that for potential rezoning because of the numbers that are associated with
Right.
the.
Okay, and then I guess my other question was about, you said that there are 2 middle schools that are technically over, but not. Can you give me more information on that?
Yeah, so they're slightly over. They're not like Woodstock, which is 45% over. Let's see here. I've got Princess Anne at 10.9%. Remember that the upper bound is plus 10%.
Right.
And then I've got Salem at 11.9%, which
Okay.
is just a little bit further.
Got it. Okay, and I just want to make sure that, we only see a color, so, and you said it was slightly over, so I just was asking that. Okay, and that's about it. Thank you.
Vice Chair Weems?
Yes, I was just going to comment on Woodstock, because when they're 11%, I mean, you could be speaking of 10 students, but this school has over 200 students over capacity. I just, that's just, That's mind-boggling. The enrollment was 653, the optimum capacity is 449, so I'm glad that the BUC is seriously looking at that. That's a lot of extra people in that building. As far as the decreasing school enrollment, do you know how that correlates with the just the general citizenship of Virginia Beach, specifically families with school-aged children? I mean, is it kind of the same trajectory, or is it not? Or do we know, or can we find that out?
Well, we've talked considerably in our BUC meeting about birth rates and how they have declined a lot over the last 20 years, and they continue to decline. For instance, in 1998-97, there were 6,300 births, and in 2025-26, there are 4,100. So that definitely plays a role in this.
Okay, that would just kind of be interesting, how our city's doing versus school board as far as population and enrollment. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cummings?
Yeah, thank you. I recognize that I omitted some information when I was sharing my board update about how great my academic support meeting was, because we see these growing numbers at Woodstock, and despite this 45% increase, they're seeing a significant decrease in their referrals and suspensions year over year. And so that was the thing that stood out to me when I was at my support meeting, how they're utilizing the BIST program and how they're seeing results. And so I wanted to share that. I apologize to them because I forgot about that in my board update, but I just had general comments, and I'm going to just share some of my comments that I had at our committee meeting. That this is a tough subject, and we recognize that for the communities, for the neighborhoods, for families, and I really appreciate the closure scorecard that goes through and evaluates. It's almost like you could put your thumb over the elementary school name and come up with a blind method to make an informed decision. And so I just wanted to say that I appreciate the quantitative evaluation of taking this endeavor. And for the public, this is, we do recognize, I think, that this could be a touchy subject for folks, but know that, we're looking at data to make, I think, informed decisions about, the future of our schools. And I know for a fact that no matter what the outcome is, that our students will receive quality education at our schools, and that they will find a home where there will be, work with great teachers, great leaders, and, our service to those folks never give up. So I just wanted to share some of the comments I shared at our meeting, and thank you again for this presentation.
You're welcome.
Ms. Dwyer?
I just have a quick question, because I'm sitting here and what used to be military as our driving, as the largest employer, what is driving the birth or the population in our schools? What do you think it is? I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I think getting back to what Ms. Weems was asking, and it is that the birth rates are declining. That's trickling up now. We're starting to see that in the middle school, and eventually it's going to reach the high schools as well. And so that is the primary factor.
So what are they coming here for outside of the birth rate?
So I don't quite understand your question.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is it's not military anymore. And so you're saying it's solely the birth rates are going up in our community?
They're going good down.
Down. I mean, I'm sorry. Let me get this straight. let me rephrase it. So if the birth rate is going down, but you said there's been, and we saw it on the graphs, an increase in population in the middle schools, what do you think it is that's driving that?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's not, that doesn't have anything to do with the birth rates. It's an accumulation of, let's say, for instance, you have a home taught student, and they go through all of elementary school being home taught. Well, now, when they reach the middle school level, they have additional academic opportunities like Plaza Middle School and such, and even more so in the high schools, they have all the academies that are available. So I think that has something to do with what the slight, it's not a big increase.
No, it's not. But that's a good point. I guess the opportunities and the options we offer here in our city. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I appreciate everything that you've presented, and I have a couple of comments, and then I guess some questions about timelines here, because Holland Elementary does sit in District 10, which is the district that I represent. That is the lakes, and it looks like there's a portion that attends Holland Elementary also in District 3 over there in Scarborough Square area. So, you know, obviously, as I represent this community, there's going to be some concerns and some fears, apprehensions, and, you know, I'm going to keep an open mind. I know that the recommendation has not come at this time, but I do think that the community would like to better understand at the end of this when it says, you know, 27, 28, target date for potential closure and rezoning. And exactly what does the timeline look for that? Because September 26th, there's a meeting. When does the public get to, you know, weigh in? I mean, I know that may not be a cut and dry answer, but.
Yeah, I think I can answer that question. So, a couple things. One, we are seeking direction from the board. We are recommending that we proceed with looking at scenarios for Holland Elementary School, but of course we'll need board direction. Secondly, the 27-28 was the earliest possible date by which we could close Holland Elementary School. So to your point, Chairwoman Brown, there would be a robust communication plan with the community at all of the impacted schools, but in particular the impacted school that's going to close, which would be a series of parent meetings, some visitations set up for the schools where those students will end up. Because, as Mr. Cummings said, and I appreciate this, wherever you go in Virginia Beach City Public Schools, you're going to get a high-quality education. And when parents are faced with a school that's going to close, they want to know that they are not going to get less than. In fact, they are looking for more than. And so we will look at the various sites and determine what are the additional options that they might enjoy at the new school that they wouldn't get at the old school, besides the fact that although all of our facilities are in good condition, a newer facility is going to be a little bit better condition. But there would be a plan that we would propose to the board, and the board would say, yep, you're good for 27, 28, or you need more time and it's 28, 29. So that's still to be determined.
Okay, so, but we're not voting on the closure. I just want to make sure that I understand, because the way that it sounds when you're saying you're looking for board direction, I mean, it would be impossible for me to say what my district would want. And so it looks to me like you're talking about September, maybe, that you'd be looking for direction?
Yes, in September, we would come to you in September with here's potential plans. Then the board would go through the process of developing workshops, information item to make a decision.
Okay, but it would go, so it goes to the BUC in September, then it comes to the board, and then the board has those conversations, and so generally, there's, outreach and public hearings, and I'm trying to figure out when those public hearings might occur so that the community can be keyed in.
Yeah, so we would look at the, go ahead.
So if I may, so there's an entire process, and you've seen a similar one with the rezoning of point of view. So typically the BUC in a year where we don't anticipate there's going to be recommended changes, meet a little bit later. The reason why Mr. Berkebile talked about meeting in September, is to get in front of it to account for everything that you're describing. So there is an entire process that the school board will be briefed on of here's what will occur, here's the communication process, here's the timeline, here's when a decision would be, need to be made to have an effective transition, with whatever meetings and types of communications that are needed for the public, and make sure that we're incorporating all the school board feedback in addition to what we would traditionally do with, hey, here are some other good ideas to incorporate for our communication to make sure that we've accomplished everything that the school board wants to accomplish if this is the direction that the board wants to go.
Okay. All right. And I heard Ms. Melnick said we're kind of in a little bit of a holding pattern here temporarily. So I appreciate that, and then I can communicate that as necessary here.
And if I may, so I wouldn't say that we're in a holding pattern. We're on timeline. So
Okay.
this is the expected meeting that staff comes and reports to you what the Building Utilization Committee, who it's comprised of 3 members of the board, said, yes, take this to the board, so that you had an opportunity to provide any updated guidance related to what we're sharing. And then next September, on timeline, having that first meeting to get in front of the school board, if that is still the proposal from the BUC, to be able to have the school board then make a decision and then have all of the discussion in and around that of, okay, what's the process going to look like to be able to get there?
Okay, I appreciate that. And, you know, I do not envy the work that the Building Utilization Committee has to do. I appreciate all of the work. It's never an easy conversation or decision, but, you know, there is definitely some realities surrounding declining enrollment and aging facilities. And so, you know, I want to be as reasonable as possible, but I also want to make sure that I'm representing the district I represent. Ms. Rogers.
One more quick question for Dr. Robertson. Should we make the decision to close a school, whatever it may be, how would that impact our staff, as far as the staff in those buildings, or building, or whatever?
Yeah, so because we are such a large system, I'm very confident, based upon historical numbers, that attrition would cover everything around those staff. No one would be losing their jobs.
That's what I was asking. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much. And with that, we are going to recess and reconvene at 6 p.m. for our formal meeting, and we are adjourned.